Welcome back to another ZMS Next Level stream production. We are back for Flamme Rouge Racing Tour of Watopia, and this is stage 8, the final tour. I'm hoping Richard has now sorted out his sound and he can hear me loud and clear, because we did have some technical issues at the start, but you can hear me loud and clear, Richard. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, I can hear you, Simon. Welcome to everyone as well watching. Hopefully you can hear me. So yeah, it's been a day of interesting day, to be fair. But there we go. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you couldn't find there with sorting out those headphones in the last minute, so it's appreciated. As I said, welcome to the tour, Watopia. This is stage 8. Richard Vale, for those who don't know, who are new to the stream, is the organizer of Flamme Rouge Racing Tours, some of the most epic tours out there on the Zwift platform. We're going to have a talk about what's coming in the future later on in the show. But this is stage 8. Why don't we take a look at what the riders have been doing over the last few days? Well, I say few days. It's been 9 days. In fact, this is the 10th day, I believe, because we've got a rest day in there. These are the stages that all the riders have covered so far. So we started back with an individual time trial. We then moved on to a points race around the Breaking Point course. That was a 51-kilometer points race. We then moved on there and back for another points race, 42 kilometers. And then, of course, we did the stage that we covered around Innsbruck, which went up that iconic Innsbruck climb there. That was earlier this week. Stage 5, Accelerate to Heaven. That took in the iconic Alpe de Zwift. That was the king or queen stage with over 1,000 meters of elevation. Stage 6, that was also a points race, the Gran Fondo course. Of course, yesterday was an individual team time trial again. So we started with an individual team time trial. We had one yesterday just to spice things up a bit before we get into this, which is stage 8. The riders are going to be covering, by the time they've finished today's stage, 353 kilometers with over 4,500 meters of elevation. Why don't we take a look at the different categories of riders, Richard, and you can talk us through the men's categories and how many we've got.
Cool. Yeah, we've got 10 men's categories, and we go from our hottest, strongest riders, Captain, all the way down to bell peppers. Our traditional Zwift groups have been sliced and diced in about a 0.3 zone, as you can see across down there. And our ladies, ultimately, across 7 categories, starting our ghost peppers at our most powerful all the way down to bell. So again, alignment across the two, slightly different levels. But ultimately, it's just to give us a slightly closer and more fairer racing. Ultimately, I think that's what a lot of riders really want, as much as possible.
Absolutely, and the racing has certainly been close, but I guess there's the number of jerseys that we're going to be fighting for as well. Of course, there's a general classification competition. 2 types of general classification. The number one, the one that everyone is pushing for, is this E-gap, which is basically taking the gap from the finish line. Doesn't matter what time zone you're racing. We're going to talk about that a little bit when we get in. Some of the riders have done just under 8 hours so far that I'd seen at the end of stage 7. So we're going to be looking close 8, 9, 10 hours for some riders out there. Then, of course, we've got the climbers competition and the sprint competition. Those are based on points. The climbs competition, the tougher the climb, essentially you have this climb multiplier on there as well. So the more points to be gained from that one. I know that Stuart Miller from Racing Without Borders was leading that competition before we went into today's stage, and I know Stuart had a cracking race earlier today as well, so hopefully he'll be fighting to keep that jersey at the end of today. That's on the men's side. And then, of course, you've got the combined jersey. Not forgetting there's a team competition throughout, both the men's, ladies, and the mixed team competition. And the thing with the Tour of Watopia and Flamme Rouge Racing, it doesn't matter how many team members that you have in that team, but is it the top 10 riders to contribute towards the team points there, Richard?
Top 8 riders are going towards team in the mixed, but in the mixed space, again, mixed by name. You need the 4 best men, you need the 4 best women to contribute to that. And then once you get into the individual gender leagues, it's 8 best men, 6 best women.
All right, well, I'll tell you what, let's have a look at the standings so far that we've got for each of these categories. So here we are. Here are the leading of each categories, and you can see that the categories have been shortened to 3 letters there. So CAP, capsaicin, I think that's dragon, and then I'm not going to talk through the rest. We know what they are, but you've got all the men's on the left-hand side, and then we've got the women on the right-hand side there, of course, with those categories. And what you're looking at on the right-hand side there, for each, the men and ladies, is the time gaps that they have to hold that position right now. So that's the current positions. Let's look at today's stage in a little bit more detail. We're not going to be far off until the riders are in the pens, and I can tell you the action is going to come thick and fast. You've called this course SOS Radio City. This is, of course, the Shorelines and Summits course. This is one of the new courses that have come with this new, I think it's 19-kilometre stretch of shoreline road in Watopia. So 39 kilometres. Heading around the shoreline. First of all, we start in the jungle. We've got 4 sprint segments. The thing with these sprint segments is they're all pretty long as well. And that, of course, before we get on to that final segment of the day for those KQOM points, which is the Epic KOM. Let's look at each segment very quickly before we get into these pens. So as I said, these are the 5 segments. Stowaway sprint, 400 metres this one. This comes at kilometre 7.7. Fairly flat run into this one, and again, it's going to be pretty rapid. The second sprint of the day comes very quickly after that first sprint, and this is the Acropolis sprint. Again, another long one, 450 metres, and again, you can see 7.7 was the distance for the first sprint, 10.2 kilometre mark, this second sprint. The third sprint of the day. This is the Sasquatch Sprint, 350 metres, the shortest on today's route. This comes at kilometre 16. So again, thick and fast as we're chasing these points for that jersey, that green jersey on this one. And then the final sprint before we head to that climb. This, of course, is the Woodland Sprint. This is the longest one, but this quite unique, this sprint one, because it's pretty much downhill all the way. It's really twisty, really fast into this one. You get that little sand section, which is, you've kind of got under 100 metres to go. This is the one to watch. Again, it's all about timing and skill. And then, of course, the final test, which is the KQOM of the epic segments that we have here. But that will not be the end of the story. But let's look at the epic KQOM first of all, 9.5 kilometres. This starts at the 28 kilometre mark, 416 metres of elevation. Of course, when this was released in 2016, this was like the longest climb on the platform back then. Of course, we've got a few more climbs in there now. But this is before we get to that final 1.1 kilometre stretch that takes us up to that radio mast, which is where the finish is going to be. So those are the segments. Richard, are we going to see any early moves, or is this all about waiting for that epic KOM at the end? What have you seen so far today?
Well, I've been out there twice today, and first from a race and second for a domestique role, but I don't think so. I think what you've seen there is the sprinters going for the sprints to get all the points, and from there, the race settles down until all hell breaks loose on the com itself. I think that's where anybody who's got any aspirations on GC for the points, for the time deficits that are there, that's where they're waiting and keeping their gunpowder dry to stay in.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to try and pick as many riders out as we can today across all the categories. Hopefully it won't be long until we manage to get on the road with those opening riders there. The A group, which will consist of 3 different categories, first of all, will be off there. And here we are, we're into the race footage. Fantastic production there from the ZMS team. And you can see at the moment we've got 4 cameras on screen. We've got the A riders at the top, and at any lead groups, we'll be able to track those lead groups against the main peloton on the road at any one time. Of course, then we are going to jump in with the B and C riders. But at the moment, we are sat with the A riders. What you're looking at on screen there, if you look at the top left-hand corner of the screen, you've got the distance covered, just 1.5 kilometres into the race at this point of a 39-kilometre race. We've then got the speed. Of course, when we pick up individual riders there, we will also be looking at their numbers where we can. I will say we've got a Discord channel with lots of riders willing to show their gain caves and pain faces in the studio tonight. So hopefully we'll get to as many of those as we can. I've said it is all about the community, this one, and covering as many riders and right on cue. Look at that. I can see Dan Creasy there at the top getting ready. He was the C category rider that we saw earlier this week. Elton was also one of those featured riders. Good to see Elton has got his jersey on today. He was the man in bibs last time. I can see Gina on screen. I know Gina, we had her digital avatar on screen. Niall Batty there as well on the bottom left hand of the screen. So plenty. And Lisa Crazy Pants. Lisa's been in the chat. Today she is on the bike and racing at this key time zone. The key thing, James, thank you for the thumbs up from Sisu. Of course, today, this is the final stage, and this is almost the final time zone. It's certainly one of the peak time zones. I think you've got another time zone yet to come, or maybe another two, Richard, before we get to the end of Tour Watopia.
Yeah, we've got just after midnight, half past midnight tonight, and then we've still got the catch-all at 02:30. If anyone's missed it and needs to get it in there and get their 8th one in. So 2 to go after this.
Fantastic. Well, we're in the A's at the moment. We're not going to get to this first segment till kilometre 7.7. Anyone who's new to this course, and I imagine there's a lot of people new to this course, but we do start in the jungle pens. We drop down the jungle. So there's a bit of dirt, but all bikes are neutralised in the Flamme Rouge racing, so no need to worry about bike changes. But it's not long until you get onto the tarmac and the paved areas there. But in terms of the A category, or that capsaicing category, should I say, after stage 7, we've got Luke Gilderbolt from SWAT Racing there, up leading that E-gap category with just a 48-second gap over Miguel Angel Andres. He was FRR Bond, so I think that was one of your formed teams there. He was sitting, well, he actually did 2 hours 41 for the last stage. Andre from FFZ, our French rider, is sitting third. And though Adrian had raced before. We saw him actually in the last stage that we did. I think he finished second or third to the overall winner on that day. Daniel Kirok is sitting in fourth. Steph Vivert sitting in fifth. Stuart Miller, as I said, is sitting in sixth at the moment. He's currently the leader of the climbers classification. Cedric Richard from Hexagon sitting seventh. Andy Nichols, BL13. He is sitting eighth currently. Tom B. Wow sitting ninth. And Diego Calcada sitting 10th. Just 6 minutes separating the top 10 there, but less than a minute, or a minute 30 separating that top 5. So it's going to be interesting as we get deeper into this race, how those gaps look at the end.
It's great they've all turned up in the same race, to be fair, Simon. So, it's going to be quite an epic finish. And I've said that a number of times today, so I won't say it again. Promise.
We're going to excuse that pun, don't worry. But yeah, I had to look round the start list, and I did see a lot of these top names were in here. And I also see that they bought some teammates as well. So some interesting tactics could play out here. We're currently sat with the Bees. They are 2.8 kilometres into the race. Looks like we've got a little bit of a gap here, just 6 or 7 riders just off the front of the group here. So this is a mix of habaneros. What other groups have we got in here, Richard?
In the A group, you've got, well, not so much. Is that the A group or is it the B group, isn't it? So
the B group currently,
yeah. B group. So you've got your habaneros, you've got your bombs in there, and you've also got your Ks. You've got your lady GHTs as well in there. So possibly somewhere in there you might find Alice Lethbridge, sitting in the group somewhere. I think she's hiding in there. She's currently leading. Yeah,
absolutely. You're right. Alice Lethbridge from Coalition. 8 hours, 30 minutes of riding so far. She has 1 minute 47 lead over Louise Gamst from BL13. Michael Gamst's other half. Both of those two riding for Team BL13. Sponsored by Level Velvet, of course. Louise has got a teammate, though. Harriet Howden in there as well. She's 3 minutes 24 off Alice currently. Danny Wilson from Galaxy. She's currently 3 minutes 48 behind the leader. And Sarah Olam, a rider I know well from Synergy, is currently sitting 4th overall at 9 minutes 53 seconds. So we're in with the C riders. Here we are. We saw a very exciting race, Richard, the other day with Creasy and a couple of the other riders working their way up that climb there in Innsbruck. I think we're going to see the same today. I can see Lisa Crazy Pants just sat in the middle of the pack there as well. That's Lisa Hopkins to reveal her true identity.
recently married, of course, on the 20th of December, as we all know. But
as we all know, good knowledge there, but a very popular member of the community, that is for sure.
She sure is, and she's out there. She's got a healthy lead in the E gap, and I'm sure she's out there to protect it. I know there's been lots of comms out there about what sort of gap she's looking to protect, but the question is, what competition has she got in that pack? So we might have a look at that in a bit and just see what she's got in there.
Right on cue. Production are doing a great job. Lisa Hopkins drafting dynos. There she is, currently pushing 260 watts. Good to see you, Lisa. Thanks for joining the stream. Absolutely fantastic. All right, we're going to be approaching that first sprint of the day very shortly with these A riders, which is going to come at the 6.5 kilometre mark. Now, of course, this sprint competition at the moment is actually being led by Luke Gilderbolt there from the SWAT team. He currently has a total of 4,971 points. I will go through the rest, but as I said, we're getting closer and closer to this stone away sprint. 400 metres long, as I said. There is a small bump here just before the sprint itself. I watched this earlier this afternoon, and it was really interesting to see some riders and their tactics just holding back until they got over that bump. I could see Niall is just sitting at the back of that group there as well, riding for Restart. Really fantastic team, doing a lot in the community at the moment, so it's good to see that Restart jersey out there. Of course, powered by Alex Coe, the famous cycling esports coach. I have to say that is my coach as well, otherwise my training plan all of a sudden gets pretty difficult over the next few days if I don't plug Alex, so it's good that I get it mentioned in there. We'll see a few riders off the front. We are sitting with the lead group here. I think we've got 6 riders, maybe 7 riders here just off the front with a 14-second gap over this chasing group. I say this is all about this E-gap. So whether this is the move to extend that or close some gaps, we'll yet to see. Of course, we've got 39 kilometres until that can unfold, or whether this is just for points. But it's all about FTS points, Richard. It's not first to cross the line on these segments. It's the fastest through segment, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of the sprinters are separated by a handful of points, or one sprint's worth of time. So with 4 sprints on this stage, there's still lots to play for the sprinters here, so they can tie their engines all the way to the bottom of the climb and let the ground team go to take over. But that's not quite how some of the Zwifters really work, is it? They tend to be able to do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So here we go. We're into that sprint there, and you can see the bannock up in the distance. You can see the riders really pushing through there. This is a really good group to get that speed and aim for that fastest through segment. Well, really difficult sprint to cover there. We, of course, will be looking at those points throughout today's stage. But it's not necessarily about those riders who cross the line first. I've said this is all about fastest through. Starting at, well, not near the back necessarily, but making sure you can utilise that draft to full potential. Excuse me.
Frogging that throat.
A real selection of pain caves here. I can see Gina already has that polka dot jersey hung there. Clearly riding for Team NL, I would say, in that distinctive orange and blue kit with a green screen behind it. Big shout out to Team NL. I've spent quite a bit of time with those guys over in the Netherlands. And there's one of the teams we had quite a few battles with in my early days on Zwift. So a team I know really, really well. Do a great job of that. We've got Niall Batty with that distinctive climber's technique there on the right-hand side of the screen. Now, obviously, part of the back pedal community, as well as this time riding for Restart, did a great job, in fact, in the last tour of working for Ed Laverack, should I say, to make sure he got the victory in that Tour Britannia. So Ed is the defending champion, I think we should say, in terms of these tours go. So we're getting closer now to the next group of riders hitting this first sprint of the day. And indeed, here we are, the B riders pushing through this segment. Right in the middle of this segment now, we go around this right-hand bend until you see that banner in the distance. into between these sort of Mayan temples that we see before we get onto the coastline proper. And it's these riders here that we can see pushing through. Brooks pushing those watts. Plenty of orange numbers on that right-hand side. We can see a Team NL jersey just pushing through there with the habaneros. Hopefully we get an opportunity to see all categories come through these sprints. I can see one of the Racing Without Borders riders there. Also just at the back, one of the bonnets. Right, let's take a look. There we go. So we're across all groups here now. In with the C group, just 600 metres away from this first sprint of the day. I can see Creasy is in there. Creasy did a great job around Innsbruck, as we said. I noticed Creasy went on the kicker climb there and extended his lead through the flatter section and then extended it again even further with his compatriot in that break. So here we are approaching that sprint. This little bump I was talking about just before the sprint here that kicks up. This is where you just got to sit in and wait. I would not be pushing on too early at this stage. And then we're going to zigzag round, left, right. And then it's not until you take that last right-hand turn that you see that banner there in the distance. But you can see we've got this little bit of a drag as we continue to work our way up towards this zigzag section before we kick down. Right, there is the green marker on the floor to start this sprint segment. You can see the road just flattening off now. 2% still at the moment on this full flat. We are still sat with Creasy. You can see they were just closing some gaps on some of the other Category B riders there. And it's Turnbull launching his sprint, rolling over the top of Creasy there. Like an absolute rocket. Turnbull went like absolute rocket there. Danny C from TBR. But it's these riders behind. Be really interesting to see where those top times are. It's always with the C category where we get the exciting sprints and climbs. This is where we're going to see the breaks. Most of the A riders still sitting together at the moment. We've just got this one rider off the front. Alexander Doyon from Velo Optimum. We also saw him last week over in Innsbruck. Chris Poole, Sisu Racing, Fozzie ART in there. Mark Cox from Evolution is also here. Chris Bowles from SRT. I see David Kowalski, again another rider we know well from Coalition, is also in this chasing group, but we are on with Pella at the moment. Just trying to push this pace. Just a small lead at the moment, still got him in sight. We are working the way now towards the third sprint of the day, in fact, for these riders. The second sprint, the Acropolis sprint, came at 10.2. With the Sasquatch sprint as a third sprint on the road. That's going to come at kilometre 16 to kilometre 16.4, 350 metre sprint there. I think it's really important we pick up all the categories as we can. So there we've got Pella just off the front still of this group. Just a handful of seconds. This B group looks like it's still together currently too. We'll take a look at some of the names that we've got in this B group. We've got Scotty P there. K. Janine.
The legend himself.
Mr. P, yeah, of course, Scotty P. I can't say what team he's got listed here, but let's just say it says blue hat and still no F. K. Janine, Milan van Dijk, Patrick Weishert, Matthew Funnier, the Canadian rider there. Lance Schultz, the US rider from Virtual VR Racing. Valerie Charlotte as well, also from SWAT. SWAT with 3 riders in this group with the B category riders currently. So these riders, again, rolled over straight through sprint, the second sprint of the day. Also now onto the third sprint, which will be the Sasquatch sprints coming at kilometre 13. As I said, those first two sprints come really close, within 2 kilometres of each other. We are going to get an opportunity here to look at this Category C roll through this second sprint of the day, which is the Acropolis sprint. This one starts with a descent, and then as you go around that left hand, you've kind of got this false flat section. So we're going to see the green marker on the floor here at kilometre 10.2. The sprint is going to finish at 10.7. Look at the Fire Sox doing the work there as that power is applied. Slightly smaller group at this point. See riders pushing through. These are the riders. We can see that lady rider just pushing through there from the back. Craig M from Scotland working his way through the group, chasing these front riders. This is where the fastest through is. And it's O'Rourke there pushing through. Danny, who we just mentioned there from TBR, rolling through just at the right time, picking up maybe third or fourth over the line, but certainly must have picked up some FTS points. We'll take a look at those points as we get them on screen a little bit later on. So again, plenty of competitions. You've got the climbing competition, the sprint competition, and then the combined competition. So there's plenty on the line. Sticking with these C riders currently, looks like we've got this small group just after that sprint, just easing back, but still pushing 2.5 to 3 watts a kilogram there. As we see Creasy just come back to the front. It'd be interesting to know where Creasy is sitting, Richard, currently in terms of that overall classification. Certainly been a very proactive rider, as he has been all week. I did take the opportunity to go back and check. If for London Dynamo, if I remember rightly, Dan Creasy was riding for IRL. I think we're just seeing a couple of riders just roll through on the front there. And indeed, London Dynamo jersey, Don there, 180 watts, looking cool as a cucumber, even at 160 beats per minute. There he is, out the saddle, up in the pace. Thank you to all those riders who've joined us in that Discord video chat. So again, the next sprint for our A riders will be the Sasquatch sprints. That is going to be at kilometre 16. We've got the Woodland sprint. That is going to come at kilometre 20.7. Pick your pain cave, Richard.
I think the Dutch one's always quite good as a pain cave there. I think, although the guy actually just picked his towel up. He was there the other night on stage 4. So, again, quite like that green top, actually.
He was indeed. Yeah, he was the gentleman who didn't have the top on last time, if you remember, out in the top right-hand side of the screen.
Yeah,
so hats off. I'm not seeing my teammate in there at the moment, though. I'm not seeing any level racing jerseys in there, but we've got, I think we've got Danny Smith in the pen this evening. He's a jalapeno riding for level racing, so hopefully we can pick Danny up at some stage as well. Always good to give a teammate a shout. Of course, we want to give everyone in the community a shout, but we are approaching that third sprint. That's going to come very soon. This is the Sasquatch sprint, kilometre 16, 350 metres. So this is the shortest sprint of the day. Richard, what have you been chasing any particular jersey or classification during your time on Tour Watopia? Or is that not allowed?
I think well, it is allowed, but equally I've been particularly rubbish in all fairness. I mean, I did come into the Tour not being able to even put my own socks on because I've hurt my back over Christmas. But at least I can now put my own socks on. So I've gone the other way, Simon, really. Maybe I may even qualify for the Reed Head Award, which is actually someone who we give an award to that, it's not necessarily at the front, it's somewhere, they've got a story. There's a story somewhere out there. We've had a few, and maybe we can announce that later on and actually have a great candidate for it.
Absolutely. We just sat on there with Elton Judd. That was the rider in the green top, in fact, that you highlighted earlier on. So that is Elton Judd. There he is. It's not Dan Creasy, that is Elton Judd. Good to have Elton on screen.
Elton's all the way in Hobart in just off Australia. What's it called down there?
I thought you were the man for the geography there. He is definitely down under, because we did exchange some messages, and he did say, look, the reason for no top is because it's bloody warm down here.
Yeah. Elton's
racing for TBR, the big ring, of course.
Yeah, definitely Tasmania, I think, in the big hydro company.
Absolutely. Looks like we've got that same rider once again pushing off the front of the A group. I think it was Penna that we saw off the front earlier on. Pella, sorry, and there he is again. Clearly either doing a lead out and trying to mix things up for a teammate, or just really keen to get away and extend either before he gets onto the Epic Com, so he's got some slide room, or he just wants more time even before he gets to the Epic Com. But being chased down here by Phlebas and Lefort. So not giving much of a leash here to these riders. One German and Belgium, are they going to work together? Or is it going to bring it back to a bit of parity? We see Dobson from Wahoo Lacole just riding through to the front, using that roll through speed just to try and close that gap. That is still quite a big group there with the A's, Richard.
I think it'll be a big group all the way until someone tries to break off. I mean, the climb's long enough and steep enough, or hard enough to for them to all push each other. All the questions: what gaps are they trying to break?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I say these sprints are going to come thick and fast here. We are going to try and cover as much as possible, but the woodland sprint is going to creep up because that is going to come at kilometre 20.7. But we are mid-sprint here with the B riders straight into the action. Again, those riders just really utilising that draft to push through that sprint. And again, easing off, taking the recovery. They've got 4 kilometres now until they get to that 4th and final sprint, which will be the woodland sprint. This sprint, the woodland sprint that we're going to get onto next, is the longest sprint of the day, of 500 metres. And those sprints hurt, I can tell you.
They are really long sprints, actually, aren't they, Simon? I mean, it's they almost want a categorisation of themselves.
I think that's been a bit of a trend. You know, we saw that when they released Mercury Islands. A lot of those sprints are sort of plus 350 metres. You just don't get these short, punchy sprints that that we previously got of 200 to 250 metres. And with this new road that they've done, this new coastal road that we're taking in the whole of this new stretch, 19 kilometres, all the sprints, 400 metres, 450, 500 metres, and it's the same in reverse as well. So, yeah, it seems to be a common theme with the new release, which I can't complain. It's the longer the sprint, the better for me, because I don't have that really short, punchy power, but I can hold a mediocre power for a little bit longer. Let me put it that way. Just sat on with one of our wow riders at the moment.
I think though, Simon, you're more of a climber than, aren't you?
Yes. I was gonna disclose my weight of 68 kilograms, but given the Christmas break, it now starts with a 7 and not a 6. So I've had quite a tough week this week with training plans, trying to get myself back in gear, but it's coming back. It's coming back. I was inspired. I rode today whilst watching the ride at 2 p.m. So kept me motivated.
You told your coach? Have you told your coach you've hit 7?
Yes, I did. Yes, there's no hiding it. There's no hiding it. We're just about to roll into this sprint here, the Sasquatch sprint with our C riders. Good that we're starting back. You can see Creasy on the back here. Coalition rider just rolling through. So again, this is that 400-meter sprint, zigzagging through. A little bit of a descent again here. They are quite rolling these sprints as well. Nothing too dramatic. It's that final sprint at the woodland sprint, which really sort of descends there. But here we are once again. These riders timing it perfectly, punching through. These guys have got a little bit of an advantage here because, of course, they are picking up some of the riders from the B group as well. And I think this is something we saw from our lead riders in Innsbruck, that if you can just get across to one of those B groups in front, that really can assist to extend that group. But, of course, that is easier said than done. Here are the results so far from the first 3 sprints. Stoneway sprint taken by Jake Lamk. I can see Sam Crofts there from the Dirt Riders. I've raced with Sam IRL, taking the Acropolis sprint, and Sam Crofts also taking the Sasquatch sprint. This is based on the FTS, by the way, so all of these riders picking up vital points. as we get onto the woodland sprint, and they're already onto the sand section, which means we are approaching the last little bit as we come round the sand in towards this banner. Look at the speed here, 64 kilometers. That's what I'm talking about, this sprint. It is very, very fast. You have to have your wits about you. It's very difficult on a sprint. And you've experienced this with the new draft dynamics there, Richard, but it's very difficult with these new dynamics in a fast section of the course to get round riders. We saw this in ZRL in the last season. If all riders around you are pushing the same power or pushing similar power, it is very difficult to get round with these new dynamics. Ewan Campbell, we're just sat with at the moment, still pushing 350 to 400 watts. Looks like he's in a Rhino jersey to me as well, I think. Just trying to pick him out.
Don't have the same problem with the sprints actually, Simon, because I'm never anywhere near them either. I'm definitely not a sprinter.
So you're like me, you focus on the climbs as well.
I do focus on the climbs. I think probably as I've gotten a little bit older, I'm probably now a little bit more of a class of a puncher type person. So maybe I have to change the tour so they're a little bit more punchier climbs rather than the Alpen Bend 2. But maybe not, eh? That wouldn't be right, would it?
Well, I suspect, Richard, what we're going to say here is a completely different set of names by the time we get on to the Epic Com. So as I said, with these A riders now, we are heading towards this Epic KQOM. A 9.5 kilometer climb, this one. This is going to start at kilometer 28. That's going to take us through to 37.5 kilometers for that segment. But of course, once that segment is done for those points, those climbing points, they've still got to then look for those overall race points and times as they take on that radio mast tower, of course, which is epic. So we'll take a look at that climb in a bit more detail when we get there. But again, we can see another rider off the front of the A's here, just pushing the pace from BZR. Of course, part of the ABUS Synergy team, that elite team. They're going to be racing the Grand Prix tomorrow, no doubt. Belgium Zwift Racers there, racing for the E3 team. Being very secretive and just giving us the initials of TV. But welcome to the screen. Or welcome to the ride, should I say, and you are on screen. So maybe TV fits. Here we are with the B riders approaching, in fact, into this woodland sprint, because that started at 20.7. It's these riders. Dirt jersey pushing through there. It's actually the Mert jersey, but it is a dirt rider wearing that. Fantastic to see. Donning that Ukrainian flag there, just punching off the front. Team NL, Bujis rider again, the Habanero punching through as he did on that last sprint. We follow this group. Plenty of the yellow jerseys. That's the same jersey the team level are riding at the moment too. Still a very big group in that B's. So that was the woodland sprint there, that long sprint. Very twisty onto the dirt. But again, as I said earlier on, this dirt has no impact on the bike choice. In fact, I don't think there's any dust being kicked up anyway. And I think the rule is with the dirt in Zwift that if it kicks up dirt, then it does affect the drag. But if it doesn't, well, it doesn't. Just like rolling on a pavement, I believe. You see the fire just coming up there with the fire socks. Meaning they're pushing some big numbers to work the way through. So we're just, again, climbing through this woodland section before we go island hopping and head towards that epic KQOM.
Can start bringing some of the climbing into our events. That would be really good. We had to do this event and just ease our way into Tourmalet, for instance.
I'm not sure anyone is ever going to accuse you, Richard, of easing climbs into any of your events. It's pretty much a staple thing, I think, of the Flamme Rouge racing tours. So there again, Elton Judd on that left-hand side, we saw picking up those sprint. Lisa Hopkins there, looks like she's got a glow on and a bit of shine on. She's clearly working hard for the drafting dynos there. Looks like my very own Gain Cave there as well, with the boiler next to her in that garage. Fantastic to see. Look at Max Tim in the middle here. Look at the colour. He's also got the Capellino on to match the jersey. Fully zipped up still as well. Hats off, he must be in a similar part of the world to us if that jersey is fully zipped up, Richard.
Not in my garage, huh?
So here we are, heading towards this final sprint. Is that Sam in the orange kit in his live pain cave? We will take a look very soon, Alan Park, after we have taken on this final sprint section. Yeah, I'm not sure it's an orange kit, but it's certainly an orange light that he's got going there. But those Sea Riders were just approaching that final woodland sprint, starting at kilometre 20.7. It's a much smaller group. This group has definitely reduced. If you look on the left-hand side of the screen there, that lower box, that moving map, that's where you can see the B riders green, or the B group riders in front in green, and then different categories, different groups just behind, snaking through these shoreline roads here. Here we go. We're into this sprint. Again, this is a fast descent. Look at this, minus 3% elevation here. It's when we get onto this dirt sand section here that you know you're onto the final couple of turns and heading towards that finish, which comes at 21.2. So 250 meters to go, 200 meters to go for these guys. You can see the banner in the distance, really strung out here. And I could just see it was that Union Jack flag just at the front there. I think it was Roger that did a really great job of just sprinting right through that pack. Finished second over the line, but that looked to me like it was a great FTS sprint. This is what we want to see. So we've got this lead rider, TV still, from BZR on the right-hand side of the screen. And there we go. We've got the Woodland Sprint points up there. So Sam Crofts, again, clearly after these FTS points, we're going to have a look at the overall standing before we got into this stage to see where Sam is sprinting. In fact, if I remember rightly, he was sat at the top of that sprints classification. So based on that, looking to defend that. But of course, there are other time zones. Carl, second. Max Tim, who we saw on screen there as well, taking third in that final sprint there. Jean Christophe taking fourth. Mick Buckhoff taking fifth. Christopher Cunningham taking sixth in that sprint. Chris Boyles once again taking seventh. Featured in some of those early sprints too. Oliver Wiener, James Boto and Matthew White there. Again, another rider that I've ridden with before, picking up the 10th place there. Matthew White, should I say. We both went to the UCI World Gran Fondo Age Group Championships earlier. I was going to say earlier this year, but in fact, it was now mid-2023. Super strong rider. Really interesting to see how he goes on this climb as well, because I can tell you around the hills of Scotland at those UCI events, he certainly pushed me under the cosh, and he was a little bit bigger and stronger than me. So be interesting to see how he goes on the Epic KOM. But we are approaching the foot of that. That is going to start. We're just 1,200 meters away for these A riders to get to the foot of that climb. How long did it take you to get up this climb today, Richard? What are we looking at time-wise for some of these riders, do we think?
I think, again, if you're in the B groups there, they've been doing around 22 minutes. The A's are going to crack up there well below sub 20. So it took me a bit longer this morning. But then I'm not racing. I wasn't racing for anything. I was just racing to survive. So maybe one day I'll be able to get back into it. Part of this is just finishing it as much as winning it.
Absolutely. You know, I know I said this in one of my videos. Well, just before I say that, we are going island hopping now. So as we jump across these islands, we know we're getting close to the foot of this climb. And then we'll, of course, come across that iconic rope bridge. Well, it's not a rope bridge, it's a suspension bridge, to use the proper term, as we get over the other side of this little island there. But you're right, Richard, it is all about the community, and it's just about having a great challenge. You don't have to come and ride these Flamme Rouge racing tours to go for victory. It's about that challenge within yourself too. So again, you also do not have to come and finish all of the stages. Just do what you can. But it is one of the, I know I've said this in a video, but it is a rite of passage. I certainly think Flamme Rouge has established itself as the #1 stage racing on the Zwift platform. As again, we look into these pain caves. I'm looking at some of the lighting. We got Sam with that bright orange glow on the right-hand screen. There's plenty of shiny LEDs on James Dominguez, I want to say. That was the Sisu rider there in the center of the screen. And then there are some darkly lit studios there as well. What looks like a hallway from Nico. I'm going to say that's a Bianchi behind him, or a Bianchi with that sort of distinctive Bianchi colour. So here we are, the Epic KQOM, 9.5 kilometres. We're on to the climb. There is no turning back now. At the moment, we are Gruppo Compacto. I don't see this lasting long, though, Richard. I think very, very soon we're going to start to see this group stretched out in one long ride.
Yeah, I think those little S-bends to start with, just squeeze a few people out. I think it really starts when you get over that suspension bridge. To be fair, I hate the suspension bridge at the end of the day. It always sits there. People get to this corner and just keep going. And yeah, maybe that's just what I used to be able to do.
I know what you mean, though. You get lulled into a false sense of security when you get up to it. But, of course, it does start to get a little bit more undulated and rolly as we get closer to the top there. So if you can hang on, and I say hang on in these lower slopes, but if you can push through these pitchier sections, there is opportunity as we get closer to the top. If you can keep a few riders around you just to utilise that draft and race a little bit smarter there. So there's plenty of opportunities.
Yep, there is absolutely in this. But I think this is the book where people just put a little bit of the pain on. You can afford to put a little bit more pain on going over the bridge. It's not that steep, but it's steep enough just to say, are your legs ready for it?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, of course, I did say that I watched some of the racing earlier on. And I did see that Stuart Miller raced at 2 o'clock. And also our race leader after stage 7, which is Luke Gilderbolt, was sitting first. But he actually got beat by Stuart Miller by 1.5 minutes on that stage. So not enough, unfortunately, for Stuart to roll his position over Luke. But certainly to make the racing here in today's stage a little bit more exciting. There is opportunities for these riders, both in the men's and ladies categories. In fact, across all categories, all 10 Chile categories there, to change some of these positions on this final climb as we see the B riders just coming up to the start of this climb here too. So you can see that distinctive green marker just on the right-hand side of the screen there. So that marks the start of any segment, whether that be a sprint or a climb segment, for those who are new to Zwift.
Just say so, if ZMS will throw up the Google Sheet, which I've updated, you know, we can see there, you know, the seconds that are actually separating first going into this final climb now. So you talk about those guys this afternoon, they could have changed it already. But I know they probably have changed it already, but going into it, you know, we've got less than minutes, we've got the smallest margin is just 6 seconds. Just 6 seconds going up here after seven stages of hard racing.
I mean, 6 seconds after 9 of 10 hours of racing is absolutely unbelievable. And I just think a demonstration of how close the competition is and how hot this racing is. He thought it was Elton John riding. Good comment, Rob. No, I can say it is Elton Judd, the one and only, from down under there. Standing up to the heat and keeping that jersey on today. We can see some riders just starting to drop. And again, if you look at the top right-hand corner of the screen there, just look at those red dots spread out across that map. And we are going to start to get into some of the snowier sections of this climb. And it was really interesting watching the footage again from the racing this afternoon, Richard. It's been a while since I've done this climb. But again, you just familiarise yourself with the little villages and things that we pass through on the way up here. Because, of course, this was released back in 2016. This was like the longest climb. You said there it was about 20 minutes. I mean, I guess this was considered sort of the perfect FTP testing ground as well, given the fact that it's like a 20-minute climb.
Yeah, for the top guys. So and maybe a
for
little
the
bit
top
less
guys,
for them.
absolutely.
But, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it's you up there, Si, where would you attack? You've got a 30-second lead. Where would you attack?
I think at this point I wouldn't be attacking at this point. I'd be waiting at this point. There's a couple of little kickers out of some of those dips as you get closer to the top, and I think I would just be waiting to go for as late as possible. And just I'm one of those riders. I don't like to attack too much. I like just to try and maybe like is the wrong word. It's more of a necessity. Try and hold on to some of those riders as much as possible, because I'm an A rider, but I sit right at the bottom end of that A category, so quite often it's a hang on for dear life and try and survive to that last 100 meters and then see what can happen, rather than try and make any moves myself, because if I make any moves, then no doubt they're going to be closed down pretty quickly. But we're on with Heisteg at the moment from the Netherlands with a little 10-second lead over these chasing riders. We are sat with the B riders at the moment. Looks like we've got quite a big group, but strung out, as you can look again on that top right-hand side of the screen. Ramon Heisteg there, 340 watts. What a beautiful 80 RPM. And a beautiful cadence on that neutralized bike. Not sure about those shoes there, matching that jersey. But certainly stand out with that orange and blue distinctive jersey of Team NL.
Yeah, I could penalise him for dress code.
Well, I mean, this is the virtual world. If you can't dress your avatar in whatever you want, when can you do it, I guess? So we're sat with the C riders here, who are just getting onto the foot of this climb. Going through this rib-type structure, and you'll just see again that marker on the right-hand side of the screen. They're on this island currently, and then we, of course, cross that long suspension bridge, but already we can start to see some separation with these two groups. But I can see the riders that we're interested in looking at, with Dan Creasy, Isaacs pushing the pace there. Just sat with Farrell there. Isaacs looks like he's just taking a bit of a breather. Maybe he's just had a bit of a dropout. I hope not. I hate it when riders get dropouts.
No, I think Andy was doing a domestique roll to get one of his riders across the flats to the bottom of the hill. So
excellent.
That's where he'd already been out on the course today.
Brilliant. That's what it's all about, teamwork. So we can see Creasy starting a little bit further back on this climb, but starting to get into a bit of a rhythm now. 4.2 watts per kilogram, 300 watts. Riding for Dynamo, as we've said, down there at the south of the UK. Green screen, so we know Dan is also going to be over on YouTube. Around that jalapeno, just trying to close that gap there on that 5 riders in front, which is the B group. He's just closing down there. So this is what I'm talking about. If he can utilize some of these riders and just get a bit of draft and a bit of recovery, and then again, probably make a move and make a break from these riders. But these two riders, Verburen and Heald from the UK, not letting him get too far away. But it is these 3 riders with a 30-second lead over the chasing C category riders at the moment. But there's a long way to go. Around about 9 kilometers to go for these riders on this climb. So there's a lot to unfold on this course. I said it just pitches up here to almost 10% just before we get onto this suspension bridge where it flattens off. We can see our A riders are just at 32 kilometers. So again, 5.5 kilometers to go on this climb segment. And I say climb segment because, of course, there is that iconic radio tower. But it's Delafour, a rider we know well from Sisu Racing, one of our capsaicin category riders, out front, pushing this pace with almost a 15-second lead over those chasing riders. A decent lead at this point in the climb, Richard.
Absolutely. I mean, he could be having a bit of a push up there. He's got a bit of a gap to try and close down. But, if he goes off the front and puts a bit of E-gap into people, he can potentially turn things around.
Yeah, absolutely. Not sitting in our top 5 currently, but you never know. That could absolutely change today. So do you want to give us a bit of information on this E-gap, Richard? maybe just give the listeners to explain what exactly is EGAP and why you chose it to be sort of the prime GC way of classification now.
I think, as we sort of said in in stage 4, Simon. I mean, if you put 8 events out there over 24 hours for riders to attend, and you just go purely off time, every time it's going to be the fastest peloton, the biggest peloton that will give you the fastest time. So it's dynamics of the actual platform. Whereas people who can't make that, can't do this, can't do that, say, well, okay, I can't really go for that. I want to go for GC, but I can't. I'm strong, but I'll just never make that. I'll just never make that race. So other people actually came up with the EGAP solution. Or the community did. So, okay, you tell me how we think it works. They came up with the idea, we've coded it, and ultimately EGAP allows people to race anywhere and effectively, manage that sort of, time on course. And say, how do I win stuff? How can I actually be a GC winner? And EGAP is the way to do it. It's been really well done. There are a couple of loopholes. We know there's a couple of loopholes, but we can address those. But equally, for the vast majority, for 99% out there, the gaps that we're seeing on the GC are genuinely competitively generated, and that's great to see. That's great to see when from the community. So, and it's all credit to them.
Yeah, I think I absolutely echo that. I think some of the best innovations in Zwift and the racing platform has come from the community. As we look again, we're on with these V riders. It is the lead rider in this particular race, Davy Verbeeren. Again, we also saw Davy in Innsbruck, one of the riders in contention there for the GC in this particular category. So we've got 3 riders just out in the front here. We've got Creasy, Davy, and D. Roll from Herd, a US rider, from what I can see from that flag there as well. And these jalapenos are pushing a really good 3.5 to 4 watts a kilo on this climb, but they have a 25-second lead over that ART rider that we saw early on, which is Healed. And then 1 minute 10 back to those chasing group. And I think we've got another 3 or 4 riders there just closing down. Just another look at those categories. So, of course, next to the name in brackets, you are going to see JLP. That is the jalapenos, for example. They got the KNs with a CAY, the pepperoncini, I want to say, with a PEP, and the bell peppers, of course, with BEL. So really useful to have that up there. Pepperoncini, is that how you pronounce that one?
Pepperoncini, you have to say it with a little bit more of an Italian twang, I think, there, Simon. But yeah, I think so. It's a great name. I wish I could actually be it. Maybe if I could eat my way towards it, perhaps.
Well, as we know, I don't pronounce names very well, and being from the Midlands, I don't do accents very well either. This is great to see. all 3 categories, and of course we've got that race leader Delafort still out there in front currently. 200-meter lead over that chasing group. We are 50 minutes of racing in with these A riders at the moment. That is still quite a big group there with these A riders. So no major moves being made from the chase yet. I can see Pella, who was, of course, making a lot of that action early on there. I think Niall is probably in there also, as we go back to some of these pain caves. Kevin Osborne, he was one of the riders featured before as well, from Army Cycling. Great to give Army Cycling a shout out.
Got Bastian von Hain up there, I think, as well, somewhere. From the Talent Fry Cool.
We've got to give a shout out to Warwick up there as well in the top left hand side of the screen. Warwick has featured in many streams in the past.
Is that Warwick? Is that our Warwick from Race 3R?
I believe so, on the top right hand side, yeah.
Yeah, Warwick's always up there, isn't he? So,
So great to see some of these pain caves. And again, some of these riders clearly getting hot. Jerseys unzipped, base layers on. Max just in the centre there. And again, that Brightly kit, giving it some watts, giving it some power. 35.5 kilometres. Again, it's these rolling sections with this group being so big. In this A category, 10 seconds Clark is behind Delafour at the moment. But we've got this big group which is just sitting around 20 seconds behind Clark, 30 seconds behind Delafour. They could utilise this rolling section, that draft, that carry through speed to close this gap down. But is it going to happen? Or is Delafour going to hold this lead, take advantage of this E gap? And again, are we chasing the points on the climb? But it's also about this E gap, extending that time over the main group in this race here that we're seeing. So Delafour at the moment still holding that 28, 30-second lead over this chasing group, with Clark sat in the middle there from ECC, from the UK. And again, just look at that road ahead. Beautiful scenery around this epic KQOM. You know it's cold, you know it's getting lumpy, you know you're at altitude when you start to see the snow. As we see a couple of riders just dropping off the back there. Poole from CISO in the middle. I can see a Wahoo LeCole jersey and a Coalition jersey in there as well. And again, a few riders just rolling through to the front. And that's what you need to do on these flatter sections. That gap is continuing to go out. Delafour has just extended that gap just by a few seconds there from those chasing riders. That distinctive Sisu jersey of that blue and white there of Sisu. Sisu, a Finnish word. I can't exactly remember what the Finnish word means, but I know it has quite a strong, powerful, motivating phrase. I'm going to have to research that now. There is Warwick Luke, right, from race 3R that we saw in that top left-hand side of that screen before. So just sat in comfortably with this B group at the moment. In this lead B group at the moment. Again, the main B group a good 30 to 40 seconds behind these lead riders. So this group has really reduced down now. I think there's, 10 riders in this group? And there he is. Warwick Stockdale from race 3R. One of your teammates then, Richard?
Yeah. I mean, my teammate's in there, so there he is, good old Mr. Stockdale running up that hill, pushing up that hill. Don't see a Warwick that option where I race is always up in the dev class. So, but occasionally I get to help out in that space when they need someone. But always very keen to help out in any ways. Warwick is a bit like Hayden also from race 3R and Evo. That is really my home team. I know I have FRR, but race 3R was where I was born. It's always a good shout out to start with.
And here we are. We're getting closer and closer to the summit of the climb with those A riders. But we're on with Dan Creasy, who is again continuing to lead these climbs. A 15-second lead over D-Roll from the herd at the moment. Davy Verbeeren just dropping off the pace a little bit, 23 seconds back. Come on, Creasy. You got to push that pace. Yeah, he looks like he's got a teammate around him there too. And I have to say, that's great to see. When you get teammates willing to drop back, give a little bit of assistance and help a teammate there. We see in real life racing, we see on here on Zwift Racing too. We're just 200 meters off the front here. And we're just sat on with Pellet. Be interested to see where Delafour is up the road, 30 seconds up the road from this chasing group. Clark still floating in the middle there. Here he is, Delafour, 37.8 kilometers into a 39-kilometer race. All about this E-gap now.
I have to say here, Simon, this is now the Flamme Rouge of the actual tour. The last kilometre is what Flamme Rouge is all about. So, what more could they ask for?
And what a Flamme Rouge that you've picked here. 1.1 kilometres, 13.7 average ascent up this particular climb. Not only that, but as you can see on screen, it's ice and it's snow. So it also does not have the same rolling resistance as the rest of the climb. It just gets harder and slower from this point in. So if you've ever wondered, why is it particularly slow in that section? That is why. 400 meters of elevation here.
I thought it was just me.
It's everyone on this climb. So again, this is the final section of this race. This really pitchy, sustained section of this climb to finish it off. And again, let's hope these riders continue to push as they round over the top and round past that snow station that you get off the top of this climb. It looks like Delafour is going to hold on to his lead over the top of this climb. And again, we've got just 700 meters, but it isn't a fast 700 meters, as I said, to the top here. Maybe just going to sneak under the hour, but also maybe not. A big thank you coming in to you there from Matthew Burton. Richard, thank you to you and Lee for organising such a fantastic series. As a newbie, a week-long race has been hell, but he still says thank you.
I think
that's what it's all
says
about.
Thank you out there. The vast majority say thank you, which is so warming at the end of it. It's why we do it. It means that we can come back next time and test people again.
Look at that. Andrew Isaacs dropping a message in from the race itself. We saw Isaacs up there doing some work for a teammate. Thank you for watching. Yep. Thank you for watching. Thank you for the comments. Legs are dead. Legs are dead, says Matthew again. But he still said thank you. So we're not going to forget that, Richard. That's the main thing there. But absolutely.
Our wall of words will tell us that. So the finish line here is just before we crest the top of this this climb here. Never quite gets to the top, so it's just before he gets to the top. So,
well, Clark is cutting this fine. He is closing this gap. This gap is coming down bit by bit. It was 18 seconds at the foot of this climb. It's now down to 9. Clark is closing this gap on Delafour. As Delafour got anything else, and we can still see he's pushing 6.7 watts a kilo over the top here as Clark continues to push the power. Also just 100 meters behind these two riders, but 100 meters on this road, it is not quick. This is hell right now. The lactic acid for these riders will be building up. The pain is real. We will see on the faces as we get deeper into this with the categories. 8 seconds now, clawing it back. I don't think there's enough room on this road for Clark to pull it back. Clark is determined to prove me wrong, pushing 6.5 watts a kilo. Come on, Clark. 5 watts a kilo, 4 watts a kilo from Delafour. Up those watts, up that power. It's Dilla Clark at the moment with the impetus, with the speed, closing it down to 5 seconds. The riders behind Delafour and Clark are not going to close this gap. This is where the races are. Is Clark going to close this gap? Digging deep, pushing hard, but Delafour up to what? 7.2 watts a kilo. Just 100 meters to go here. I think Delafour's got this now. That gap is just too much. Great effort from Clark, though. That made some racing. Delafour's got to keep pushing, though. We're just sat with Clark. Well done, Clark. Great effort there. We're going to jump back through the gap. Pellet, we saw very active early on, Richard.
Who's just cutting
and it's
that?
Matt Timms. Matt Tim there just closing that gap. Yeah, we saw him on camera earlier.
Fire socks going.
Just rowing Pellet on the line there for 4th or 5th place. Jaeger from Germany. From Team Incorporated. Make sure we try and cover as many of these riders as we can. The Irish riders there from Alpha. We just sat with Cox from Evo at the moment. In that distinctive Evo kit, of course. Always bright, always spot them in the group. Niederhauser there from WLC, also just rolling over the top. We just sat on with Campbell here from Scotland.
So a little
Rhino
stat for you, Simon,
jersey.
while these guys are up there. A little stat while
Go
they're
for it.
going up here. Over 700 people have done all the stages this week. So that's probably
That's phenomenal.
more. That is, I think, about 75% more than we've ever had before. Something like that.
Wow, that is phenomenal. I remember you said you had 3,800 riders. I know everyone doesn't start. I know everyone doesn't complete all stages, but still, the sign-ups was fantastic. What a way to start the new year by ticking this off the to-do list. Stamping that card, getting that, well, maybe not getting the FRR jersey yet, because I know that's pretty hard to get, but certainly adding this to one of those major achievements in your virtual cycling Palmares. We just sat on with a Sisu rider, which is Mini at the moment. All these riders, hats off. You can see the A riders all over the road here, and I'm just seeing some B riders just coming onto the foot of this radio mast tower climb onto this snow and ice to finish off their race too. We'll just stick with some of these A riders at the moment before we jump into that B categorization. Kowalski, again, another rider we saw early doors. We can see Sam Crofts also in that dirt jersey, just closing that gap there. I think it's safe to say, looking at some of the results this evening, Sam Crofts hopefully should have won that sprinters classification. Certainly took top points on those final 3 sprints, holding on and still having a great ride on this climb. So again, many of our riders still out on course there. It looks like Nico is done. Sam Crofts, we can see just at the bottom of the screen there with the orange. Well, that rider from dirt, just finishing off his race. Looks like his day is done. Great job, Dan. Sam, should I say. Dan is at the top of the screen of our C riders. Still out there pushing, as is Elton Judd from TBR, our A rider at the top right-hand side of the screen. No doubt also approaching that finish line. Niall Batty still out there as well. Niall, a great climber in real life, competes on the UK hill climbing scene. So we're just sat with Warwick, 4th rider on the road in this B categorization at the moment. It's Van Dijk sitting 2nd. Just looking to see who is set first currently, and it is this man here from Wow in Belgium. Van Deel, I want to say. But it is Van Dijk closing that gap. Very close race here between these 2 riders. Who is going to punch their name into that top spot and the Flamme Rouge Racing final stage? Nicky Van Daal. So both riders from Central Europe here, pushing the pace. Van Dijk just rolling the top over Nicky. Again, still 500 meters to go. You can see the finish line is coming up just at that mast there. So just as it rolls round to the left. But again, it's 500 meters, but this just keeps on going. It's not just the gradient, it's the surface that you're on. It is like riding through sand at this point, Richard.
I think I find like it riding through sand on tarmac currently, but I'd never really considered it that it's got a slightly different rolling resistance, but that probably does account for an awful lot of my struggles.
It's very true. So this is Milan Van Dijk, in fact, from Kirschmeyer e-cycling, under 23 rider. Picked up some fantastic results already, I can see. Be interested to see where Scotty P has disappeared to, because Scotty was up there early doors as well. Let's see if we can catch up with some of these.
That much.
Well, Warwick was certainly up there too. Let's say it is Milan and Nicky up here at the moment. Nothing between these 2 riders. Incredible, incredible. 5.5 watts a kilo. Indeed, thank you for all your messages over on Facebook and YouTube. So if you say well done to all racers. And again, Richard, another thank you coming through to you and Lee. Great job. So again, Nikki riding for Wow Wow from Belgium. Belgium Zwift rider. Some absolutely fantastic peak numbers there as well. 52nd power, 13.1 watts a kilo, 969 watts. So certainly has a kick. And guess what? You can see with those fire socks pushing that pace, utilising that power. It's good timing, utilising that power to an advantage. Just to open up a little gap, 1 second gap over Milan. Milan trying to respond, but it's orange numbers here. Orange riders rolling, orange numbers rolling over the top for Nikki. Great riding there. Rides for both Peak CC and Wow Wow. Great racing there from both of those riders. Heesteg here, also from the Netherlands, pushing the pace. Another habanero. Just try and skip through as many of these results as we can. Here he is, your man from R3R. I tell you what, for a non-climber, Warwick has done pretty well up here. 4th position. Thank you, Tim. Giving another shout for Elton Judd. Clearly a popular member of the community. Here we go, sat with another Dutch rider as we just switch across to a Galaxy rider. This is Brink, another habanero. Just 200 meters to go on this climb. Where this road separates here, this is the final loop around the top. Many of these riders, of course, will just continue to cool down. Probably super tuck all the way down the other side while they recover. There we go, look at that. Niels at the bottom of the screen there, out the saddle, driving that gear. Probably not a big gear, but the pitch is steep, so certainly pushing the pace. Great riding, just sat with Brink here, just about to roll over the finish line. Well done to all of these riders. Great racing in all categories. Vanderlee, Team NL, again, just approaching the final 100 meters of this climb. We're going to take a look at this C category race at the moment. See what's happening in the front. Is it Daniel or Davey who's going to be taking the victory over the top of this? Because last time we looked, it was Daniel Creasy and Davey Verbeeren from BZR who were pushing the pace on the climb. And it is Creasy, 1 minute lead at the moment over D-Roll. And there he is, Davey Verbeeren from Belgium. Creasy, our UK rider for London Dynamo. Very shortly, he's going to take this very scary looking left-hand turn and the road kicks up onto the ice. You can just see the colour difference in the road there, Rich. That means you're just rolling onto ice. Put the studs on, wrap the chains around those tyres and off you go. Great riding all week from Creasy this. Put a show on in Innsbruck. Rolled over the top there with almost a minute lead too. As we can see, just amongst some of these B riders. Had one of his teammates with him earlier on, just dropped back and helped him out. That's what a good teammate does. So we're looking at Creasy. We got Verbeeren, Roland, Rogers, Heald, who we saw early on. Gary Cooper also further back. Yeah, absolutely. And I can see one of my teammates currently further down that list, which is Danny Smith from Level Racing, Level Esports. I think we've got to take a closer look at some of Daniel Creasy's stats, shall we? 123 races. Also, another rider with a good kick. With a 10 watts, just over a 10 watt a kilo, 15 second power. I always like it when you get onto Zwift Power and you see the victims and nemesis, and there's some familiar names there. Verbeeren is on that list, so clearly raced together on plenty of occasions, which is always good to see. Interestingly, though, if I look back at his stages, he has picked up 4 trophies so far in the Flamme Rouge Racing this time around in Tour Watopia. So this looks like it should be the 5th trophy. Not sure how he did in the individual time trial. but certainly been pretty dominant so far in this category of racing. Very soon, we're going to take a look at the top 10, I think, from the A riders. The C race looks like it's done and dusty for Creasy, but there's a close race there for second with Davey and D-Roll. As soon as we can, we'll get these results up from the A race. And here we go. So this was the finishing positions. The CISO rider, Delafour. Clark second. A UK rider, Clark, just 7 seconds behind in the end. 4.5 watts a kilo. Ryan Osler there, sitting in third position, 4.6 watts a kilo. Max Tim, as we saw, 28 seconds behind in fourth. Nico Peller, that very active rider from Team Talent, sitting fifth, 4.6 watts a kilo. Tim Yeager from Innovation, 37 seconds behind. Christoph Flabus, 7th. Lee Griffiths, 8th. Tommy Evans there, less than a minute behind the leader, the winner of today's race. And then Mark Cox from Evolution there, 53 seconds behind the lead rider, should I say. Of course, for the final results and the overall results from this stage race of Tour Watopia, don't forget to head over to Flamme Rouge Racing for more information. If you're a race organizer out there and you want to get some coverage, you're looking to raise the profile of your event, don't forget also to go and check out our production team over at ZMS for your next level stream. You will find them on YouTube, but you'll also find them over on Facebook. Really appreciate everyone who joined the Discord, everyone who has joined the racing on what has been an absolute epic tour, Richard. Thank you so much for putting on such a fantastic event. I know there's more to come from Flamme Rouge Racing. Do you want to give us a bit more information about this? Because I've seen some notes online about the World Tour. Do you want to give us some insights, or is it all secret? What can you tell us? Nobody is listening.
Nobody's listening at all. Obviously, yes, we've now done our third tour. This is our third tour. We've done 3 week-long tours. Our last tour was our World Tour. It's going to kick off on the 29th of February. It will be 3 weeks long. It will be 21 stages. We've had lots of comments saying, I can't do all the stages. I've got holidays, I've got family life. All of those things, we all appreciate that at the end of the day. So what we're going to do with the World Tour this year, we will have a 3-week stage. We'll have a Grand Tour 3-week race. That's fine. There'll be a competition that runs throughout it. We're also going to break it into 3. So, do the first 3 part 1, 3 part 2, 3 part 3. Choose which one you want to do. So there's basically another 3 tours inside of one Grand Tour coming. So, if you can only do 7 days, you pick your 7 days you're going to do, and you start that tour on the Saturday to the Saturday. You may even get a rest day in there. So I think that'll be the difference for this one. We'll do a big long Grand Tour, and you can also win. So you could win 4 tours in the space of 3 weeks.
A 3-week tour. That will be tours within tours. I love it, Richard. That is absolutely fantastic. I'll be busy doing the 3-week tour, but I'll try and come and do one, that's for sure. But I'll make sure I'm busy. But that sounds like an epic challenge indeed. And let's face it, all the big Grand Tours are 3 weeks. So nice and in line with that. As I've said, really appreciate everyone who's joined in the chat and the conversation. Don't forget, like, share, comment, give your feedback to Richard, give your feedback to ZMS Streams. We want to support the community. We want to feature you, your riders, and your races. Really important the community gets involved. Thank you to the production team. As always, thank you, Richard, for joining me in commentary. Again, don't forget to go and check out Flamme Rouge Racing for those final results across all categories. Let's see who took that overall victory in both the men's and the ladies across all categories. Thank you for joining us this evening. Good luck to the riders who've got to ride the next stages. I've been Cy Bradley. This man has been Richard Vale, and we'll see you soon for another Next Level stream.
Thanks,
Double.